Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher, and appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to check out today's video. And guys, today we're going to be talking about probably my favorite way to catch bass in the fall time of the year, and that's by waking or burning a spinnerbait just under the surface. This is something we've done here in the Ozarks forever. It's just a tried and true technique for the months of October, November, and December. And I'm going to give you guys some tips and advice on how to do it. We're going to talk about the baits, the setups, the type of areas, how you want to work the bait. It's just definitely, probably guys, one of the most exciting ways to catch a bass. It's like if you like to catch a bass on a topwater, I personally think it's even funner than a topwater. So we'll get into that in today's episode. Also, guys, I will include my favorite burning spinnerbaits. We're going to be talking about the Megabass SV3. This is the #1 waking burning spinnerbait that you can buy. There's not another one out there even close. I'll put the link in my Tackle Warehouse description here if you guys would like to pick one up here. Just we'll get into the bait here later, but anyway, I'll put that link in the description. And also, guys, real quick, anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, you can do that by going to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, and just shoot me a private message for details and get you all set up with that. So really appreciate it. Okay, waking a spinnerbait. A lot of people know what that is. If you're not, waking a spinnerbait involves reeling a spinnerbait just under the surface very fast to where it actually creates some type of a boil underneath the spinnerbait. Not necessarily all the time, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But it's a specialized spinnerbait technique that the spinnerbait is close to the surface, being fished fast all the time. Now, there is a very definitive window when this works, waking or burning a spinnerbait, and it's the fall time of the year. You might be able to catch one here and there, throughout the other parts of the year, but man, when that water temperature gets down in the 50s and 60s in the fall time of the year, October, November, December, that is the prime time to burn a spinnerbait or wake a spinnerbait. I can't tell you guys how many memorable, just incredible days I've had fishing a wake spinnerbait all over the country. I've caught them, I've caught them in Florida, I've caught them in New York, I've caught them all through the Ozarks, the Southeast. I caught a 9-pounder in a Bassmaster Top 150 at Lake Lanier, burning a spinnerbait the first week of December. I've caught giant smallmouth doing it up north. It's just a great way to catch them in the fall time of the year. Okay, first, before we get into the areas, let's talk about the equipment, because you've got to have everything set up right to do this. Since this is a very technique-specific thing, the lure and the rod and reels and line are really critical. Again, SV3 Megabass, the reason this is such a good spinnerbait, guys, is you've got this fish head design on it, which allows the bait to be reeled fast where it doesn't roll off to the side. Most spinnerbaits that are not, really well balanced with this type of a head design, when you burn them fast, they're going to roll off to the side, and you don't want that. You want them to run straight and true like that. So this Megabass SV3, it's got this wire nano-coated hook here. It's got the small Willys blades, small profile, hand-tied skirt with a natural trailer in it. Just the perfect burning spinnerbait. Again, I'll put that link in the description. And you want some type of a shad pattern normally. On a cloudy, rainy day, maybe a chartreuse spinnerbait. I've caught a few doing that, but for the most part, I want some type of a shad-looking, pearly, white, translucent type of thing. That's going to get you a lot more bites with that. Then the setup for the rod and reel, most of the time I'm using a 7.2 medium heavy bait cast rod. I use the Megabass Perfect Pitch, 15-pound test Seagarn Vizex fluorocarbon line. I like 15-pound test because it's powerful, yet the 15-pound test is small enough diameter where I can make a long cast, and a long cast is critical with that. So let me show you a little bit about how to work this, and then we'll get into the type of areas you want to fish it in. First of all, you need a high-speed retrieval reel. I use a 7-to-1 right here. 7-to-1 is just going to be fine. And then, again, you want a rod over 7 feet for the casting distance. So when you make your long cast, guys, make a long cast with this. This is probably one of the most important aspects of catching fish burning a spinnerbait is a long cast. You're not going to catch many just on a short or medium cast. Most of the time, long cast, and they get it right off the bat. So make it long cast with it, and stop the bait with your thumb bar before your spinnerbait hits the water and get it going. You don't want to throw it out there and let it bloom, plop in the water, and then start reeling it. Throw it out there, slow it down with your thumb bar, and get the thing moving as soon as it hits the water. This is a critical aspect of burning a spinnerbait, because 90% of the time when you catch one burning a spinnerbait, it's going to come on like the first 10 feet of the retrieve. That's just when they bite it. You know, you'll catch a few here and there halfway back, but 90% of the time, first 10 feet, you're going to get bit. So make that long cast, stop it, immediately start the rod, start the reel. Keep your rod tip high, because on a long cast out there, you're going to have a lot of line out there. You don't want to point your rod tip at the spinnerbait and start reeling it, because the spinnerbait will go too deep. So keep the rod tip high at about, you know, probably 11 o'clock, 10 or 11 o'clock position. Get the thing moving, get it in sight out there. Make sure that you can see the bait coming through the water. And as the bait gets closer to the water, you can drop your rod tip, because if you keep it high, as it gets closer to the water, it's going to blow out. So as it gets closer, you want to, you know, lower your rod, keep it going with a fast stop and go retrieve. You know, you want just a burning fast stop and go retrieve, getting that thing, you know, just going like this across the water. You'll catch a few just going straight, but you'll get a lot more just with that sort of like that herky jerky stop and go half retrieve like that. That's going to be the way to generate the strike with that. Okay, now you do, and one other thing, guys, before we get started, you do need a trailer hook. Trailer hook is pretty critical with this, since you are fishing the bait pretty fast with that. So that's the setup on the retrieve and how you want to fish it there. Okay, now let's talk about really the meat and potatoes part of it that's just as important, is where you want to fish this at, conditions you want to fish it. I have found that burning a spinnerbait really starts getting good when the water temperature falls down into the 60s. And it's the type of a deal where you can catch them on it in about any type of sky condition or weather condition, basically playing the shade or not playing the shade. So let me give you an example. And some of the best days I've had have been doing this. If you have a bright fall day, like it is right now outside, you can see it's nice and sunny out. If you have a bright day like that, you're going to have to get out early, and you're going to have to catch as many as you can before the sun gets up, because run the shade. It's like if you have a bright sunny day, hit the shady banks, hit shady points, try to find parts of the lake that have as much shade as you can, and just concentrate on the shade. And depending upon the angle of the bank, if you have a real steep bank, you may have to be parallel to that bank, but if you got a flatter bank, you might get off it at a 45-degree angle. So the angle of the cast is completely dependent upon the angle of the bank there. That's one thing to remember. But you have got to run the shade, guys. You are not going to catch nothing in the sun hardly ever burning spinnerbait unless you're fishing for smallmouth or if it's really windy. So you can catch them on windy days or calm days, either one, but you got to have, I'm going to explain to you the exact set of criteria you have to catch them under each one. If you have shade, you can catch them on shade. I don't care if it's windy or no wind at all. Wind helps a little bit, but fish as much shade as you can. Usually it's going to be pretty much over by about 10 or 10:30, unless you're on some type of a bluff bank. But you can do really well on fishing it on shade right off the bat. I've caught good limits of fish the first 2 hours of the day fishing shade on sunny days. But given that, my favorite time and my favorite way to fish a rip burning spinnerbait is on a cloudy, windy day. If you have a cloudy, windy day that's got maybe some rain with it, and you've got water temperatures in the 60s, guys, you are going to catch some fish. Again, you got to have the right water clarity. This is a cleaner water deal. You need to have at least 3 foot of clarity where you're fishing. Forgot to add that in there. 3 to 5 foot clarity is perfect for it. That's probably my favorite. If you gave me, guys, say what is your perfect water clarity for burning a spinnerbait, I would say 4 to 5 foot clarity. 4 to 5 foot clarity, a cloudy, windy day, maybe with some rain showers. Guys, you're going to have a ball, man. If you got a lake that has a decent population of bass in it, and you're out there in October or November and that water's 65 degrees, and you got a 10-mile-an-hour south wind, and it's misty, rainy, or it's cloudy, you put you on one of those SB3 spinnerbaits, and you start burning those windy banks and points, and you will get the rod taken out of your hand. How you work this bait is another really critical factor in getting the strike. When I teach people how to do this, the biggest mistake I see all of them make is they let the lure get too deep. If you let that spinnerbait get like a foot deep or over anything over a foot deep, you're not going to catch hardly anything on it. You have got to keep it right underneath the surface. And the way that I like to, here's a good judge about how far you know. When you're reeling that spinnerbait, number one, you need to keep the bait in sight. The bait has got to be visual the whole time. Number two, the way that you know you're reeling at the right speed is that about every 4 or 5 feet, you'll see a little swirl behind the spinnerbait. And then maybe the spinnerbait drops down and maybe that far under the surface and you lose the swirl. And then you might speed it up and bring it up and have the little tiny subtle swirl behind it. That is perfect. You don't want the spinnerbait so shallow all the time that you're throwing off a wake behind the spinnerbait, because even though it's waking a spinnerbait, we're not waking it. In fact, I don't like to wake it. I mean, I've caught fish doing that, but I prefer to have it that half waken, half not waken. That's just like the perfect speed to retrieve with it. And it takes a little bit of practice. It takes a little bit of practice on your rod angle and the speed and how fast you turn the handle, and just your efficiency as an angler to keep it up. Because most people that have problems catching and burning a spinnerbait is they throw it out there, they let the lure hit the water, they engage the reel, and by the time they've done that, the spinnerbait's a foot or two deep. And then they keep it a foot or two into the water, and they just don't catch many fish on it. So that's utmost important, what I just told you there about keeping it really close to the surface. But when they hit it, guys, this is what's so fun about it. It's like when they hit that spinnerbait, the number one, you can see them hit it most of the time. And depending on depending upon how far your cast is and how windy it is, most of the time you can see your spinnerbait disappear, or you see the fish actually come up and get it. The strike is usually vicious when they hit it because it's moving fast. And I personally would rather catch one burning a spinnerbait than I would like on a Zara spook or some type of buzzbait. There's just something about the suddenness of the bite and the visual and seeing the fish come out of nowhere and get it, that it just makes all the difference in the world. So anyway, guys, give it a try, man. I love this technique. It's just, I've caught fish on it for decades. It's so fun to do, and give it a try and see what you think. We'll see y'all later.